Do you think that she is being unfairly portrayed?
It's just not Lori that I see. I see a lot of hatred in the media and a lot of judgment. I see a lot of lies. I don't know where my cousins are, her children, JJ and Tylee, and I love all of them, and I know she's doing whatever she can to keep her kids safe, and I hope we can see how that turns out in the future as truth continues to come forward.
Well, we know exactly how it turned out. The children were not safe, and we learned a lot more when this probable cause affidavit was released and unsealed. So now we've got new details and a whole new perspective on Lori Vallow as a mother, as a so-called mother. Ashley Banfield, Court TV special contributor, joins us now and has how these new details in this affidavit, really a game changer for a lot of people, especially when you start getting into Lori Vallow's family.
Yeah, it certainly has changed for many of them. It's so interesting watching Melani Boudreaux-Pawlowski's comments from back then, because now we know the children are dead, and those truths have come out, at least some of them. But it is very interesting to see how the rest of Melani's family is now reacting. Just within the last 48 hours, in fact, Lori's sister, Summer Shiflin, has released a statement on Facebook. Came out on Sunday night. I want to read a little bit of it for you, Vinny. We have prayed for the truth to come to light, but we never thought it would look like this. Believe me when I say, this has looked very different from my perspective than what the public has seen. It's easy to jump on a bandwagon when you don't personally know all the people involved. When you have been up close and personal, you can't discount your own interactions and just go by what everyone else says and thinks. I know there are people waiting for me to admit I was wrong. If that's all you want to know, here it is. I was wrong. I'm an extremely imperfect person that loves my family with all my heart, and I wanted to believe the best in them. I held out hope for the best possible outcome. I have always said things truthfully as I understood them and will continue to do that as I learn new information. I'm just wondering, Vinny, who she means. I'm going to read this next one in a little bit. So pop that one down, because that one is a specific part of her statement that speaks to something she said in an interview a while ago, Vinny. But just with regard to what you just saw, that's pretty interesting stuff for Lori's sister to say, I was wrong. And I'm sure that sort of stuck out to you when you saw those words.
Absolutely, because it's difficult for a family member to ever accept the worst of the worst. But the thing about Lori Vallow is we've heard so many descriptions of her being a good person. And for me, and the other thing I look at, you know, there's two ways to look at all the marriages. On the one hand, you can say, oh, look at all these marriages, right? That tells you a lot about her. But it also tells you a lot about her that all these men fell in love with her. So there's definitely more to her. Yeah, right. Exactly. So there were 5 men who believed this is the one. This is like the greatest woman in the world. So that tells me that it's a little more nuanced, right? Who exactly she is. But then it comes back to, all right, so we look at her and she moves to Rexburg, right? She uplifts the family and just takes off to Rexburg. And to me, that was, as we look at it now, that's like a red flag.
Well, and it looks like it, sure looks like it now, but that interview, let's go back again to this whole series of interviews that Melani Boudreaux-Pawlowski, that's Lori's niece, and really kind of like Lori's adult daughter, she up and went to Rexburg as well. And that surprised a lot of people because she was married to a guy named Brendan Boudreaux. They had children, and she just up and left those children and a kind of an ugly, divorce and custody issue behind. But she left those kids to go and get married within weeks to, another guy named Ian Pawlowski. So it's so interesting to watch her in those interviews now, knowing now what we know, that those children are dead and buried in a backyard. But she went and lived for 2 months, at least 2 months in Rexburg, right beside Lori's condo unit. Lori's condo unit was number 175, Melanie's was 174. And it's fascinating to hear her talk to KPHO in Phoenix, because they ask her sort of outright, Didn't you see the kids in those 2 months? Because at that point, those kids were dead. Have a listen to that interview now in retrospect.
You got out there, your aunt is there, but you don't see your cousins. Was that strange?
Prior to their move, she was moving for their safety and for those threatening her, and to keep JJ and Tylee safe. This was a big move to try to, kind of move forward after Charles was shot and to remain safe with the kids. So as soon as I move up there in November, I see some of their stuff, but I don't see them there. And Lori says that they're safe and they're doing everything they can to keep them from the people that are trying to harm them. I believe that.
They're safe. They're safe, and she's doing everything she can not to harm them. Yet you do not see a 7-year-old boy for at least 2 months. You're saying you didn't see Tylee, and she's 17, but still 2 months. You live right next door, and this is your Auntie Lori, kind of Mom Lori. You're close. You're in the same religion. It's fishy. And it's not the first time that she wiggled out of that answer either, Vinny. I want you to take a look at this interview that she did with Keith Morrison on Dateline.
Did you ever see Tylee and JJ?
When I moved up there, I did not see them.
No, they were gone.
From November, from when I first got up there, I didn't see them.
Did you ask? Where are they?
I'd asked Lori. I wasn't close with Tylee during her teenage years. She was very independent. So if Lori, said that she was with friends, I just believed her.
Vinny, are you kidding me? She's blaming it on teenagers will be teenagers, but she doesn't say a word about the 7-year-old, because you know what? 7-year-olds tend to stick pretty close to home,
And he's not any old 7-year-old. He's special needs 7-year-old. He's a super cute kid, but he's someone that needs extra attention, And you can't just blow it off like that. She knows who JJ is, and she knows the issues that JJ was dealing with, and what kind of guy he was, and what kind of little kid he was. And
how about just JJ's supposed to go to school every morning? How about Melanie should be able to see him go to school and come home every day? Melanie should have been over for dinner maybe once in those couple of months. It's next door, their family. And JJ's not going to go out to the local diner and feed himself. So it's just bizarre that she says that.
And she's recently widowed, too. She's widowed. Now she's a single mom. Single moms need help.
Yeah, no kidding. So, okay, all of that is crazy, but there's more. There's always more. I want you to take a look at this sort of really interesting retrospective now. Again, these are interviews that were done with KPHO in Phoenix. And the questions that were asked in this next, very rambling answer. So I need to give you a little bit of setup so that the rambling will make sense. Melanie talks about Chad and Lori's sudden departure to Hawaii. Remember that? Just when the police were starting to ask questions, up they went that night and left for Hawaii. She also is asked questions about Uncle Alex Cox. And Uncle Alex Cox, was rumored to have perhaps been involved in a shooting of Melanie's ex-husband, Brandon. Melanie talks about that in this interview as well. And then again, that critical question, how safe were these kids with Lori? Have a listen now.
I didn't think they were in danger and didn't have those fears and doubts until this welfare check. And then Chad and Lori left. I didn't have contact with them, and I'm absolutely worried. I knew the threats that Lori had been getting, and I don't know what's going on. And meanwhile, we have all these false accusations and questions about this supposed shooting that Brandon Boudreaux is claiming that happened. And I've yet to see evidence and facts that come forward with that, but he's adamant about that it was Alex Cox that shot at him, and there's been no evidence that I've seen. And for a time I worried, could my uncle have done that? He's so sure, and I've got my own father threatening me and intimidating me with text messages, and I did worry. But when it comes back to it, I know the person Alex is. I haven't seen any evidence.
Did you have anything to do with that shooting?
Absolutely not. And Brandon knows that.
You know the person Alex is? You know the person Uncle Alex is? Did you know that he's pinging in the backyard over the 2 graves of those children? I mean, it's incredible. Vinny, I can see it on your face. It is
But she
amazing
knew, and she knew,
to go back and see this at
but
that
she
time
already
she did
knew
those
he was a
interviews.
killer. But she already knew he was a killer, too.
Self-defense, right?
He shot and killed Charles Vallow. I mean, we know that. We know that he's a killer already. So she's
Right.
either straight out lying or completely oblivious to everything here.
I mean, it is, again, astounding to go back and see what she said then, knowing what we know now. Those children were decomposing over the months that she's living right next door and seeing Uncle Alex and seeing Chad and Lori. Nothing to see here, folks. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. We're not cultists. Nothing, there's no problem. There's nothing wrong here. It goes on. Okay, so I got to bring you back into this interview again with KPH show in Phoenix, because some of the questions that were asked elicited quite a response. Again, in retrospect, it's all different to see this interview now, because Melani Boudreaux-Pawlowski, follow the bouncing ball, suggests that her ex-husband, Brandon, along with Lori's ex-husband, Charles Vallow, along with Charles's sister, Kay Woodcock, who's also the grandparent of JJ. Apparently, they're all conspiring against Lori. Have a listen.
It just seems like it's like bad thing after bad thing after bad thing. And the one thing that's in common here is that Lori is involved. How can she not be involved in something bad here?
I can't attest to all those different events, but I do know that Charles was there with an agenda, and he was working with Brandon and with Kay, and things didn't go the way he thought. And the big question we're not asking is, why is nobody asking why Charles had a $2 million policy on Lori? Charles and Brandon did life insurance together, and there's a lot of things that haven't been brought to light. Things that aren't being portrayed in the media. They're being hidden so we can run with this cult story and, zombies, and it's more exciting than the truth, sadly.
Well, it's not exciting. It's appalling, actually. Not exciting. No one's running with it because it's exciting. It's appalling, and it's coming up from many different sources. So, sorry, it's not us making it up. So here's another thing, Vinny. The fact that Melani said those things about the Woodcocks conspiring against Auntie Lori, her own family has a lot to say about that now. Once again, from her Auntie Summers Facebook page just on Sunday, the statement went on to say this. I am also grateful, this is Summer Shiflin, Lori's sister, I am also grateful to the Woodcocks for ordering the wellness check. I pray for them to have peace and comfort as well. My mother has been with me here the past few days, and we both feel the same about this. I am curious, Vinny, if Melani now feels the same about this, whether she still thinks that Kay Woodcock and her husband Larry were somehow evil spirits coming after those children, because the children were not found in their backyard. It was Kay and Larry who were desperate to see these kids, who called the Rexburg police and said, please go over there, please find those kids, please ask, please do a welfare check. And now it looks like Lori's family is happy they did. And we wonder if Melani will change her tune.
Yeah, and she may have something to add to the case. And based upon what we've discovered now, we know everything that she said before does not make any sense at all. The question is, why doesn't it make sense? Right. Ashley Banfield, thank you so much.